Welcome. Thank you for joining me. Uh, we're going to give everyone a few minutes to get on. We're going to have Miss Shaw share this in a couple of places, and then we'll get started. Thank you so much for joining us. Uh, we'll be playing a little bit of music for a couple of minutes until we get some participants. So, welcome.
Momentarily. It's not on your page yet.
Of course.
It's not showing up.
Three people can see me. Why can't you see me?
Because I can't see you. There.
There you are.
Woohoo.
You can see Catman in the background,
He's talking.
scrawling, carrying on. Don't be surprised if he doesn't lift a leg. He is very ill mannered.
He's cranky.
Thank you for joining us tonight. We look forward to seeing each of you always. So, tonight we're going to talk about the second part of the types of workings. These are a little more advanced, but they're all still things that each of us have access to. Okay. Autumn, I'm not sure what you're saying. Can I?
War hoop?
Yeah. I'm not sure what you're saying, Autumn. Uh, I'll look it up when we're done, and I'll let you know. Okay.
He may or may not be able to do that. I don't know.
So, uh, one of the things I want to point out is part of how you know what to do is early in your practice, you begin to do these things for yourself, for friends, for family, and you begin to build a relationship. That relationship will help you during your divination to be able to discern what you need to focus on and what's going to be the most helpful, right? Remember, if we go back to the core principles of magic, then we want to divine before we do workings to make sure that what we're doing is actually going to create change in our future, right? Um, you can't do that if you haven't mastered these things. This is why most traditions take 11 plus years of study once you've been awakened to your full potential, right? So I'm not talking 11 years from 13 or 11 years from 12 or from 27. You first have to be gifted all of your gifts. And that happens somewhere around the mid 30s, mid to early 30s. Then, generally, then you need 11 plus years of study to really know what the hell it is you're doing and to be able to discern the difference between your hubris and reality, or your ego and your hubris, because these are things that are going to get in your way if you haven't figured them out yet, right? So let's get started on these 4 subjects. The first one is poppets, or doll babies, or voodoo dolls. They
lack of
have,
a better term.
huh?
For lack of a better term.
Right. They have many names, but in essence, they are a representation of your target, so that you can then create the circumstance of how you're going to manipulate that target. Again, applying contact equals contagion, and like attracts like, right? Um, as you start making puppets, they don't need to be perfect, and they don't need to be one dimensional. They can be anything that you can correlate as this person or this target.
They can be one dimensional. You can draw it on a piece of paper. I've seen people do that. And I've seen people take it all the way to being super elaborate
Right.
and buying special fabric and stuffing it with something that belonged to someone, and everything in between. I've made puppets out of crawfish mud and Play-Doh, sticks, Spanish moss,
Roadkill.
roadkill. Made puppets out of roadkill. You do what you gotta do. Yeah, they can be made with anything. If you can visualize it and you can make it happen, you can make a puppet out of it. So, a lot of people get hung up on the idea of making doll babies that you've got to sew them. You don't. You don't have to sew them at all. I have a little video on our website that I put up there several years ago of a no-sew doll baby that I do quickly when I'm doing work for clients. It uses a piece of material that's about the size of a sheet of paper, the herbs, cleansing herbs, because that's what I do with them, and yarn. That's all it takes. So,
Yep. So Autumn extrapolated just a little bit. Um, she says that she's Lakota Sioux and Dakota Sioux, and you're either born with it or you're not. So Autumn, I am no part Native American.
nope.
Neither is Miss Shaw.
Nope.
The drum and the ocarina are also ancestral to our ancient ancestors who were tribes in Northern European and Germania. Yes, they sound very similar to Native American traditions and sounds, but that's because they're comparable. They're not identical, but they are comparable. I will look up what a war hoop is, and thank you for educating me. So the second topic we're going to talk about, so that's it for puppets. We will go into making puppets in a few weeks. The second one we're going to talk about today is ritual. And ritual is unique because this is an area that most people misunderstand, or their language skills misinterpret. Ritual, or a rite, is an action that can be repeated to achieve a specific result. Okay? So, with that being said, a general candle working is a working. It's not ritualistic because most practitioners aren't going to do it the same way every time.
I was going to say, it would become ritual if it was identical every time,
Right.
or very, very similar.
What would be ritualistic is, well, take our offering in our introduction. Every video we start with an offering to anybody who's present, and a musical intro. This is ritualistic. This is a ceremony that creates rhythm and frequency that can be repeated to draw a specific resonance. In your magic, this is the same way. Uh, Wiccans do the protective circle.
The circle.
There's all kinds of variations, but recognizing the difference between a working and a ritual is critical. Ritualistic work does exist, but it's repeating the very same process over and over on a regular basis. This would be done with the oil lamp that we light every day, right? It's a working, but it's a ritualistic working.
Yep.
Our ancestors in spirit recognize, oh, she's venerating the same thing as she did every other day. We know what this is. This isn't something new, right? This is something repeated. The advantage of ritualistic work is if you have a hard subject, narcissistic individuals who you're not trying to dominate and control, but you're trying to get them out of your life or cut ties from them, may require ritualistic practices because you've got to show repetitively this is really what you want, when most of your day may be giving a different vibe, a different idea to the universe of what you want, right? Does that make sense about ritual? Okay.
It does.
And
the spirits will actually, if you do something such as lighting an oil lamp on a real regular basis and it becomes ritualistic to you, when it becomes ritualistic to spirit, you will feel it. You will know. Yeah. When I light that, I don't even have to light the oil lamp now. I walk over to it and I can feel a pull of, I know it's coming.
Right.
So
those that are paying attention to it and have been come and say, okay, we're ready.
Yep, we're here. Come on, light
Warm
it.
us up. Light
if
it.
I'm late lighting it in the mornings, I get a pull to it there too. Like, hey,
Sure.
hey, over here, don't forget. So,
absolutely. Okay, so then that's it for ritual. We'll again cover it in great depth in a future class. The next one we've actually been asked about, and that's shadow work. So there's some unique conceptions to shadow work. There's some interesting things towards shadow work. Shadow work is twofold. Technically, all mental magic is shadow work. But this also encompasses repairing our mental selves, right? So before you can actually go get into actual doing shadow work, as in manifesting your reality with just thought, you first have to fix your thought. You have to fix your beliefs. And this is part of the indoctrination process. If we're lied to about what water really is by our mothers, how many other beliefs that we live by are false? And this is why it's important that we stop believing things. And we either experience them or we hold them at bay. Right? We don't have to always be right, and we don't always have to have the answer. Sometimes it's okay to have a probable answer sitting out in front of us so that we're aware of it, but not attaching ourselves to it to such a degree that it becomes a belief. Right? But experiencing something is more unique and more powerful because now it's a truth for us that nobody can take away. They can try, but we know it to be true for us. Therefore, it's much more challenging, right? So shadow work first has to be fixing your train of thought and your beliefs, making it so that you don't have beliefs, but you have experiences that give you validation of how you live your life, and your experiences help you make sure that all the parts of self are together and working in sequence. Once you do that, now you can take the shadow self and apply it to all parts of your reality, and all the other forms of workings can begin to subside. because now you have the power, the resonant vibration to shift who you are instantaneously.
I'm still working on that.
If I need prosperity, I shift gears and I attract prosperity. If I need communication, I shift gears and I open up communication. Note I didn't say love. Love is an emotional concept, not an emotional reality. So if I want that emotional concept, I have to build communication with who I want to love me. Because it is through communication I would receive what what I would translate as love. Right? If I tried to resonate a frequency of love, then I would attract mushiness and weird energies, neediness,
Mm-hmm.
all kinds of things that aren't actually love. Right? So pay attention. Again, go back to truths and whole truths within your reality. But shadow work is two parts. First, your inner self and your parts. Secondly, taking all those inner parts in yourself and applying them to your metaphysical reality. Okay. And then the third is the most interesting. The fourth is the most interesting. The most
The one that has the most misconceptions about it.
most dogma attached to it.
Yes.
And if you've been following along, you've technically been doing it since night 2
Mm-hmm.
of our Core of Magic.
Mm-hmm.
This is necromancy. Necromancy is simply working with the dead. So, venerating your ancestors, however you do it, whether it's drinking coffee or rum or wine or sitting down and on their mound, doing an Udazetta, which is an Old Norse way of sitting out on a death mound
Mm-hmm.
and venerating your ancestors so that you can connect to them.
Speaking with the dead.
Right? Icelandic sitting out, which is the same thing, slightly different in tradition and ritual, but same concept. So just venerating your ancestors is necromancy. The other part of necromancy is actually applying things that are dead to your magic. Okay? Taking an animal who has a specific skill and sacrificing a part of that animal for the ritual. Right? This is not animal sacrifices in we're going to kill something and hold it up to a god or a deity.
No.
This is
walking through the woods and coming across bones.
Yes.
That remain after something passed. It's the animal offering itself to you.
Yes.
It's not you taking from that animal, and there's a huge difference there.
Yes.
So
this is recognizing that when you butcher a chicken to consume it, there's parts of that chicken that can be used in necromantic work.
Oh yeah.
The heart. Most people don't eat the heart. It's small. I suppose down here in the South, some guys save the heart and put it in their gumbo. But you'd have to save the heart and over months have enough hearts to add that to your gumbo to make it valuable. Or you can use that heart in a ritual because you're already consuming the animal, right? So recognizing that difference. What we consume, all traditions, ancient practices used all the parts of an animal, all the parts of a plant. If you're going to kill something, because everything's connected, you would not want to waste any part of it. So one way that we can consume what we're killing is to use it in our workings, right?
Incorporate it into your magic.
As you become aware of the threads that bind us, this becomes very obvious. And that's why we start with an awareness meditation, so that we can build that relationship with all the things in our animistic reality, so that we can understand those things. Okay? Kay says the antlers she used. Probably uses antlers either from her kills that feed her family or sheds that she finds in the woods. Necromancy is actually easier to figure out than the modern occult version of necromancy.
It's so twisted as to what it is and what it isn't.
Right. The occult version of necromancy is the manipulation of dead.
Mm-hmm.
The swamp conjure definition of necromancy is the use and animistic relationship
Mm-hmm.
of the dead. So they're slightly different, right? But if you're venerating your ancestors, you are practicing a form of necromancy work.
I use necromancy probably more than just about anything else. And this is because all of our altars around our home, whether they're inside or outside, they're covered in animal parts, bones, teeth, small hides,
Fur.
I've got jars of eyes. I mean, it's crazy, but I've always collected that kind of stuff. I've got, what do I have on there right now on the main altar? I've got walking sticks, the bugs. Down here they get huge. I've got some that are 6-8 inches long. They're on my altar. They're dead. That's necromancy.
Mm-hmm.
I use the bones as totems. Whatever the animal that they belong to symbolizes. If I can use it in a working for a client, I will incorporate it. Just having a skull there will bring about those energies. So it doesn't have to be a large portion. You can tap into them super easy. Super easy. I also do necromancy when I do workings for clients, when I use parts of the animal. Like Mr. Kelly said, the heart, the liver, the tongue, the eyes, all of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The roadkill.
Mm-hmm.
Miss Shaw became famous many years ago because of a working that she offers. We don't do it very often because the roadkill has to be specific. It can't be something that we killed on the side of the road, but it has to be something that we witnessed being killed on the side of the road. That witness is that animal actually offering itself to us for use. So we stop, we collect up the remains respectfully. We leave an offering behind so that the spirit of that animal can travel on, and we bring the carcass home, and it becomes part of a working. Okay. Very important to build that relationship.
Very.
And that comes with practicing the core values, the core principles of magic, right?
There's some good conversation. We have to go back and read.
Absolutely. You guys are well, really participating. We appreciate that. I've noticed there hasn't been any questions.
Not really.
I'm going to give you guys a couple of minutes to ask a couple of questions before we call it a night. We got about 7 minutes, so ask your questions. We will cover these in much more detail in a few weeks, one at a time in Miss Shaw's working altar space.
I'll probably do some out here, I was thinking, and then we'll go into the altar space for like show and tell.
Sure.
The cats are being crazy.
Yes, they are. So I'm going to play a little more, and we'll see if we got any questions.
So Kimberly asked, do you tan your own hides and clean the bones? I did growing up. As far as tanning hides, my dad would tan hides. I don't do that now. I do clean the bones. There's a variety of ways. That's probably not something I'm going to get into when we talk about these classes. I'll touch on different ways, different types of things that you can do when you come across bones that still have flesh on them. But to answer the question, yes and no. No on the hides and yes on the bones.
Right. Zach says, so shadow work is something technically we do every day. Yes, it's something you should do every day. Deborah asks, is there a link to all of our videos? In the swamp, the Facebook group, The Swamp, there is a link under Unit 2. If you go to the top left and under Units, you can find it there. If you're not in the swamp, message me and I will link you to all of them.
They will eventually all be up on our website too. So.
Yes. And Linda's correct. Shadow work is about healing all the parts of self.
Hello, Habib. Yes, Autumn, I do. I've got some little pieces of hair from a bobcat hide, a deer hide,
Yeah.
and if are you speaking of just animal or
Probably
human as well?
Probably human as well.
I was trying to think. Do I have any hair?
No, not right now.
Used to. When I cut my hair off one time, I made voodoo dolls out of it, puppets that went on our motorcycles to protect us.
Right.
It was a long time ago. I think go up right above Zach's. That was one. Do you have something in your shop that can break soul contracts?
Yes. So Nicole asked, do you have something in your shop that can break soul contracts? Reach out to me, Nicole. Soul contracts are unique. I'm sure we do, but I don't want to say it's this thing because each soul contract is different. But also be aware, you made that soul contract coming into this reality. Breaking it means that this becomes a life of rest, not of success. So send me a message, reach out to me. We'll set up a consult. Doesn't cost you anything but time.
Yep, it was human hair she was asking about.
Yep. So Kay asks, how would you use a rattlesnake rattle in your craft? So we'll get into examples of how to use different things when we cover necromancer work in a video all of its own, because there's a lot of ways to use a rattlesnake rattle.
Tree.
So thank you all for joining us. Your questions were fabulous. Your attention and your time is appreciated.
This is fun.
We look forward to seeing you next week. And thank you.
Love y'all.
Good night. Of course, the return button wouldn't end the video.